cabin lights glow soft yellow. Passengers settle into their seats. A single dad sits in economy. Worn jacket. Small daughter pressed against him. He's struggling to fit a teddy bear into the overhead bin. Ahead of him, a CEO in a white blazer glances back. She smirks. Economy is full of guys who can only afford discount tickets and noisy kids. A few passengers chuckle. The single dad says nothing. The plane door seals shut. Suddenly, the speaker crackles. The captain's voice, "Is Mr. Ethan Ward on board?" The entire cabin freezes. The single dad looks up. The CEO's face goes pale. His name is Ethan Ward, 38 years old. Broad shoulders, calloused hands. He's wearing a faded hoodie and simple jeans. His daughter is Lily, 7 years old. This is her first time on a plane. She clutches a stuffed bear like her life depends on it. Ethan works as a mechanic, engine repairs, oil changes, 60-hour weeks. His wife died 3 years ago. Since then, it's just been him and Lily. 2 people against the world. This flight isn't a vacation. They're flying across the state so Lily can see her grandmother. There's a medical checkup scheduled, maybe surgery. Ethan doesn't like to think about it. The woman in the white blazer is Amanda Cole, 34, CEO of a tech finance company. She flies business class everywhere. But this plane is small, one cabin, everyone sits together. Amanda hates that. She hates crying babies. She hates slow boarding. She hates people who don't belong in her space. At the airport gate, Ethan sat on a bench with Lily. He split a sandwich in half, gave her the bigger piece. She smiled with crumbs on her face. Across the waiting area, Amanda paced while on a call. Her voice carried, "Close the deal by Friday or find someone who can. I don't care if it's a holiday." She glanced at Ethan, at his worn sneakers, his cheap backpack. She rolled her eyes. When boarding started, Lily stood in the aisle looking at the seat numbers. She was confused. Amanda came up behind her, fast, impatient. "Teach your kid how to move," Amanda said coldly. Ethan pulled Lily aside quickly. "Sorry," he muttered. A businessman behind them laughed. "Single dad, what do you expect?" Ethan said nothing. He focused on getting Lily to their seats. Now they're buckled in, middle row. Ethan tries to lift their bag into the overhead bin. It's heavy. He's slow. Amanda is right in front of them. She sighs loudly. Lily tugs on her dad's sleeve. "Daddy, why is the bin so high?" Amanda mutters. This is why they should keep families in the back rows. Ethan finally gets the bag up. He sits down, looks at Amanda. His voice is calm, quiet. "We'll be quiet, I promise." Amanda doesn't respond. She puts in her earbuds. But then something happens. As Ethan reaches up one more time, his sleeve pulls back. Just for a second, on his forearm there's a faded tattoo, wings, a number, military insignia. An older man across the aisle sees it. He's a veteran. He recognizes the symbol. His eyes widen slightly, but he doesn't say anything. Not yet. Lily leans against her dad. She whispers, "Is the plane safe?" Ethan wraps his arm around her. "The safest place in the sky, kiddo." Amanda overhears. She almost laughs. "Safe? With people like him on board?" She closes her eyes, settles into her seat, confident, superior. She has no idea who she just mocked. The engines roar to life. The plane begins to taxi toward the runway. Passengers check their phones one last time. Flight attendants move through the aisles. Everything seems normal until the speaker crackles. "Is Mr. Ethan Ward on board? If you are, please press your call button." Every head turns. Lily whispers, "Daddy, they said your name." Ethan hesitates. Then he reaches up, presses the button. A flight attendant rushes over. "Are you Ethan Ward?" He nods. Amanda turns fully around now, staring, confused, annoyed. Who is this guy? The plane is taxiing toward the runway. The cabin is completely silent. Every passenger is staring at Ethan. The flight attendant leans down. She speaks quietly. "Captain Harris would like to speak with you. Up front." Ethan unbuckles his seatbelt, stands slowly. Amanda watches him walk forward. She leans toward the businessman next to her. What is this? Do they upgrade janitors to first class now? The businessman shrugs. Probably forgot something at security. But the veteran across the aisle says nothing. He's watching Ethan carefully. He saw that tattoo. He knows what it means. Ethan reaches the front galley. The cockpit door opens slightly. Captain Harris steps out. He's in his 50s. Gray hair. Thousands of flight hours behind him. He looks at Ethan like he's seeing a ghost. Sir, the captain says. His voice is respectful, almost reverent. Are you Major Ethan Ward, former Air Force flight instructor? Ethan shifts uncomfortably. Not Major anymore, just Ethan. Captain Harris nods slowly. I need to be honest with you, sir. We've got stronger crosswinds than expected at our destination. The approach into this airport is tricky. High altitude, short runway. He pauses. I studied your training videos for years. Your manual on crosswind landings got me through my certification. It would be an honor to have you on this flight. Ethan's jaw tightens. Captain, I'm just a passenger today. I understand, sir, but knowing you're here makes me a better pilot. Ethan doesn't respond. He just nods once, then turns back toward his seat. The entire cabin is still watching. He sits down, buckles in. Lily grabs his hand. Daddy, are you in trouble? No, sweetheart. Everything's fine. Amanda leans forward. Her voice drips with sarcasm. So what was that about? Did they run out of real pilots? Ethan says nothing, but the man sitting behind Amanda heard the whole exchange. He leans forward, speaks clearly. Ma'am, that man wrote the manual your pilot is using. Amanda freezes. The cabin is dead silent. The businessman next to her pulls out his phone, starts searching. His eyes go wide. Holy hell, he whispers. Ethan Ward, Air Force flight instructor, trained hundreds of pilots, turned down a promotion after his wife died in a crash. Amanda's hands grip the armrests. Her face goes from pale to red. The veteran across the aisle finally speaks. His voice is firm, proud. That patch on his arm, 509th. That's one of the most elite training units in the Air Force. He didn't just teach pilots, he taught the ones who teach pilots. Other passengers start murmuring. Some pull out their phones, searching Ethan's name, reading articles, watching old interviews. One woman gasps. He was on the news. After that commercial flight went down, he was supposed to be on it, but he switched flights last minute to stay with his daughter. Another passenger adds, his wife was on that plane. The cabin feels heavier now. The judgment in the air is gone, replaced by something else. Respect, sadness, shame. Amanda stares at the back of Ethan's head. Her stomach twists. She remembers what she said. Discount tickets, noisy kids, guys who can't afford better. She closes her eyes, her hands are shaking. Lily, oblivious to the tension, leans toward the woman next to her, a kind-looking grandmother type. Lily whispers, Daddy doesn't like planes anymore. Mommy went to heaven from a flight. The woman's eyes fill with tears. She reaches over and gently pats Lily's hand. Ethan hears this. His jaw clenches. He stares straight ahead. The plane finishes taxiing. The engines roar. They lift off. For a few minutes, everything is smooth. The sky is clear. The flight feels routine. But then the turbulence starts. It's subtle at first. A small bump. Then another. Then the plane drops suddenly. Passengers gasp. The seatbelt sign dings on. Amanda grips her armrest so hard her knuckles turn white. The turbulence gets worse. The plane shakes. Luggage rattles in the overhead bins. A woman in the back starts crying. Lily looks up at her dad. Her eyes are wide with fear. Daddy, what's happening? Ethan wraps his arm around her. His voice is calm, steady, loud enough for others to hear. It's just turbulence, kiddo. The plane is strong. The pilots are trained. This is normal. A few passengers nearby relax slightly. His voice has that effect. Confidence, authority. But Amanda is spiraling. She's never been afraid of flying before. But now, knowing there's a former Air Force instructor on board, knowing the captain specifically called him out, her mind races. What if something's really wrong? The speaker crackles again. Captain Harris's voice fills the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We're experiencing stronger crosswinds than forecasted. We're fully prepared and trained for this. But I want you to know, today we have someone very special on board. Passengers look around, confused, curious. The man who taught many of us how to handle days like this. Major Ethan Ward. It's an honor to have you with us, sir. The entire cabin turns toward Ethan. Amanda feels like she's going to be sick. The turbulence continues. The plane dips again. But now, instead of panic, there's a strange calm in the cabin. Because they know. The man in the worn hoodie, the man with the cheap ticket, the man they ignored. He's the reason they might land safely. Comment Sky if you think respect should never be based on the price of someone's ticket. Ethan closes his eyes. The turbulence shakes the cabin. But in his mind, he's somewhere else. He's back in a military cockpit. Younger, sharper, wearing a flight suit with his rank on the chest. He's training a young pilot, showing him how to read wind patterns, how to adjust for crosswinds, how to stay calm when the instruments lie. Trust your training, he tells the pilot, not your fear. The memory shifts. Now he's on a commercial flight, not in the cockpit, in a passenger seat. Next to his wife, Sarah. She's laughing, telling him about the vacation they're planning. Lily's 5th birthday party. Then the plane shudders. Hard. The oxygen masks drop. Screams fill the cabin. Sarah grabs his hand. Her grip is tight, desperate. Ethan, what's happening? He knows. He can feel it. The angle, the speed, the sounds. He's a trained pilot, but he's not flying this plane. He's just a passenger, helpless. I've got you, he whispers, but he doesn't. The memory shatters. Ethan opens his eyes. He's back in the present, back in the shaking cabin. Lily is pressed against him, trembling. He grips her hand, tight, the way Sarah gripped his. It's okay, he tells her. We're okay. The turbulence worsens. The plane drops again, harder this time. A man in the back shouts. A baby screams. Amanda is frozen in her seat. Her designer bag has fallen to the floor. She's gripping the armrests like they're the only things keeping her alive. She looks back at Ethan. For the first time, she doesn't see a poor single dad. She sees someone who understands what's happening, someone who's been here before and survived. The veteran across the aisle leans forward. He speaks to the passengers around him, loud enough for others to hear. I flew with men trained by him. The 509th doesn't just teach you to fly, they teach you to survive when everything goes wrong. Another passenger pulls up an old interview on his phone. It's Ethan, years younger, being interviewed after the crash that killed his wife. The interviewer asks, do you blame yourself? Ethan's voice is steady, hollow. Every day. Will you fly again? I don't know if I can. The passenger shows the screen to the woman next to him. She covers her mouth. Tears well up. Word spreads through the cabin. More people search his name. More people read the articles. Air Force instructor loses wife in crash. Hero pilot refuses promotion to care for daughter. The man who taught a generation of pilots now works in a garage. Amanda reads the headline on someone's phone 2 rows back. Her throat tightens. She feels sick. The plane jolts again. The lights flicker. Lily starts to cry. Daddy, I'm scared. Ethan pulls her close. He speaks clearly, calmly, loud enough for the rows around them to hear. Listen to me, sweetheart. Turbulence is just the air moving. It's bumpy, but it's normal. The plane is built for this. The pilots are trained for this. He pauses, looks around at the other passengers. They're all listening. When I was a pilot, we trained for days worse than this. We practiced until it became instinct. Your captain up there? He's done this 1,000 times, and he's doing it perfectly. His voice is strong, confident. It cuts through the fear like a knife. People start to breathe again. A mother 2 rows back nods, holds her son closer. The businessman next to Amanda mutters. He's talking them down without even being in the cockpit. Amanda stares at Ethan, really stares at him. She sees the worn hoodie, the calloused hands, the cheap backpack. But now she sees something else. Strength, sacrifice, dignity. She thinks about what she said. Every cruel word, every judgment, discount tickets, noisy kids, guys who don't belong. She wants to disappear. The turbulence starts to ease. The shaking slows. The plane stabilizes. A collective sigh moves through the cabin. Some passengers wipe their eyes. Others laugh nervously. Lily looks up at her dad. "You were right, Daddy. We're okay." Ethan kisses the top of her head. "Always, kiddo." The speaker crackles one more time. Captain Harris's voice is steady, relieved. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've cleared the rough air. We'll be on the ground in 15 minutes. And I want to say, having Major Ward on board made today one of the proudest flights of my career." The cabin erupts in applause. People turn toward Ethan. Some nod, some clap. The veteran across the aisle salutes. Just once, sharp and respectful. Ethan nods back, uncomfortable with the attention, but gracious. Amanda sits frozen. The applause rings in her ears, but all she can hear are her own words. She judges people every day, by their clothes, their jobs, their seat assignments, and today the person she mocked the most is the one who made her feel safe. She looks down at her designer bag, her expensive blazer, her first-class attitude. None of it matters. Not here, not now. The plane begins its descent. The city comes into view below. The runway appears in the distance. Lily presses her face to the window. "Daddy, we're almost there." Ethan smiles. "Yeah, we are." But Amanda knows something has changed. In this cabin. In her. Because the man in the cheap seat just taught her the most expensive lesson of her life. The engines hum. The wheels lower. The ground rises to meet them. And for the first time in years, Amanda Cole feels small. The wheels hit the runway. A slight bump. Then smooth rolling. The engines roar in reverse. The plane slows. It's a perfect landing. Despite the crosswinds, despite the short runway, despite everything, the cabin erupts in applause again, louder this time. People cheer, some cry. Relief floods through every row. Captain Harris's voice comes through the speakers. Warm, grateful. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Denver. On behalf of the crew, thank you for flying with us today. And thank you, Major Ward." More applause. The veteran stands and claps. Others follow. Ethan keeps his head down. He unbuckles Lily's seatbelt, grabs their bag from overhead. "Come on, kiddo, let's go see Grandma." But then the speaker crackles one more time. "Mr. Ward, if you don't mind, we'd like to say a proper thank you at the front of the aircraft." Passengers in the aisle step aside. They create a path. Some smile, some nod. One woman mouths, "Thank you." Ethan hesitates. He's not comfortable with attention, never has been. But Lily tugs his hand. "Daddy, they want to talk to you." He takes a breath, then walks forward. Lily beside him. Amanda watches them go. She's still in her seat, paralyzed. Her hands are shaking. At the front galley, Captain Harris is waiting. He's taken off his hat. His co-pilot stands beside him. Both men look emotional. The captain extends his hand. Ethan shakes it. "Sir, you don't know how many lives your training saved over the years, including today." Ethan shakes his head. "You did all the flying, Captain, not me. But I flew the way you taught me." A flight attendant steps forward. Her eyes are red. She's been crying. "I watched your interview after my brother's crash. You said something that made me stay in aviation. You said, we fly because someone has to bring people home. That's why I'm still here. Thank you." Ethan's throat tightens. He doesn't know what to say. Lily looks up at the flight attendant. "My daddy's the best." The woman smiles through her tears. "He really is." Behind them, passengers are filing off the plane. Most pause to look, to listen, to witness this moment. And then Amanda appears. She's standing at the edge of the galley, her designer bag clutched in both hands, her face pale. Ethan notices her. Their eyes meet. She takes a step forward. Her voice is quiet, shaky. "I owe you an apology." Ethan frowns. "For what?" She can barely get the words out. "For judging the most important passenger on this flight by the price of his ticket." The galley goes silent. Amanda looks at Lily, then back at Ethan. "I said terrible things. About you. About your daughter. And I didn't know. I didn't. Her voice cracks. I'm sorry. Ethan studies her for a moment. Then he nods. Simple. Gracious. Apology accepted. Amanda exhales like she's been holding her breath for hours. Then she does something unexpected. I run a company. We're building a leadership training program. Mental toughness, resilience under pressure. We need someone who actually knows what those words mean. She pauses. Would you ever consider teaching again? Not flying, but teaching people like me. People who think they know what pressure is but don't. Ethan blinks. He wasn't expecting this. I don't have a degree in business. You have something better? You have experience. Real experience. He looks down at Lily. She's smiling up at him. Proud. He looks back at Amanda. I'll think about it. Amanda nods. She reaches into her bag, pulls out a business card, hands it to him. Please do. Ethan takes the card, tucks it into his jacket pocket. The captain claps him on the shoulder one more time. Safe travels, sir. Ethan picks up their bag, takes Lily's hand. They walk off the plane, into the jetway, into the terminal. Behind them, Amanda stands in the galley, watching them disappear into the crowd. For the first time in years, she feels like she's learned something. Something money can't buy. 3 months later, Ethan stands in front of a conference room. 20 executives sit facing him, notebooks open, pens ready. He's wearing a button-down shirt now. Still simple, but cleaner, pressed. He's teaching them about resilience, about pressure, about making decisions when everything is falling apart. Amanda sits in the back row, listening, learning. After class, she approaches him. How's Lily? Ethan smiles. She's good. Surgery went well. She's got a poster of a plane on her bedroom wall now. Amanda laughs softly. She's braver than I am. She learned from watching you apologize. That took courage. Amanda looks down. I've been thinking about that flight a lot. Me too. I used to think I was successful because I worked harder than everyone else. But that day I realized I just had more money, not more value. Ethan nods. You're learning. She pauses, then asks, do you still work at the garage? Part-time. I like fixing things, keeps me grounded. And this? She gestures to the conference room. This pays for Lily's future, and it reminds me that teaching is what I was meant to do. Amanda smiles. You're good at it. So are you, at listening. They stand there for a moment, two people from different worlds, brought together by a plane, a storm, and a lesson neither of them expected. Thank you, Amanda says, for giving me a second chance. Everyone deserves one. She walks away, different now, softer, humbler. Ethan packs his bag, heads to the airport to pick up Lily from school. At the terminal, he passes through the crowds, business travelers, families, people from every walk of life. And for a moment, he stops. He looks up at the departures board. All those destinations, all those flights. He's not afraid anymore, because he knows something now, something the sky taught him. It doesn't matter where you sit. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter how much you paid for your ticket. In the air, we're all the same. Fragile, human, hoping to land safely. And the people who get us there? The ones who teach, who guide, who hold steady when the wind picks up? They're not always in the cockpit. Sometimes they're in the middle seat, holding a stuffed bear, whispering to a scared little girl. Sometimes the most important person on the plane is the one nobody notices, until the moment they need him most. On every flight, we share the same sky, but we judge each other by seat numbers, ticket prices, designer bags, expensive shoes. We don't know that the person we look down on might be the one who wrote the manual that keeps us alive. In a crowded cabin, someone bought the cheapest ticket, but carried the kind of value money can't buy. Comment sky if you believe a person's worth is never determined by the price of their seat.